It's got a manual.
It did last year too.
2,500 people love that. Welcome to Downshift, everyone. My name is Paulo.
And my name is Matt, and we're here with the 2024 Toyota Supra 3-liter turbo inline six with a stick, and we're gonna cover the best and the rest. And the first thing we have to talk about, unfortunately, is my biggest issue with the car, and it's the fact that this competes against two other cars, both of which are less money. The Nissan Z with 400 horsepower and a V6 starts at $43,000, and the Mustang GT with almost 400 or over 450 horsepower and a V8 starts at also $43,000. And this starts at over $46,000, and that's for a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. So that's a tough pill to swallow. And then there's the BMW thing. Now I will say, we're 4 model years into this car. I don't know that people are actually that bothered by this thing anymore, which is good because it's a very good partnership. And it puts my mind at ease. Honestly, when I went to go buy my M340 and Paulo's now bought his X3 M40, I really do take some peace of mind in the fact that knowing this engine, this powertrain, which is in my car, has gone through Toyota's build standards and durability standards and quality standards, and it still gets all the power, all of the efficiency, and all of the fun, and it's going to be reliable. Plus, you get a BMW interior. I'm really not mad that this Toyota is a BMW. Toyota quality standards with BMW power and efficiency, can't lose. And then there's the technology suite, which is fine. It's just a little bit older. It's about 2 generations older than what you're getting from any BMW that you're buying that's a 2024. But you still have a head-up display with color. You still have a fully digital instrument cluster. It's like 8 inches. It doesn't really change a whole lot. But you've got your BC button, which is very BMW. It just changes down there. And when you press Sport here, a very tiny little thing changes here in your cluster. And then you've got your center infotainment screen, also about 8 inches, running iDrive 7, I believe. And again, it's fine, it's responsive, it makes sense, it's easy to use. You do get wireless Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto, but it's just a little bit older. Then you throw it into reverse, and you don't have 360 cameras, where of course you probably would in a BMW equivalent car, but you do have radar detectors all the way around the car. So again, it's fine. You do have wireless CarPlay, and that's really what you're going to care about. It is just a little bit older if you care about that sort of thing. And there's just a couple little things. The first thing is the fact that 2024 introduces the 45-year anniversary of the Supra. And it's playing on some Mark IV stuff. There's a lot of nostalgia going on, but ultimately what it comes down to is some paint, some special little decaling and badging, and it's going to cost you $65,000. That's just entirely too much money. The Supra itself is already more expensive than the other things in the set, and then to add an anniversary edition, it's just a bit too much money at $65,000. And then there's just a couple little things with the styling. Obviously, we've got fake vents here, and down the door, so you can't really ever escape it, and some people are really bothered by that. I'm not super bothered by it, but I know you are not a fan of it. And then you also still have the window buffeting issue. So when you have the windows down at like 40 miles an hour, it just becomes unbearable, intolerable. And then you want to talk about visibility.
Yeah, and I don't think this is a big enough point or complaint to have it be its own point, but so we thought we would add it in here. But as you can see, if I open up the door, the visibility that you get a lot of headroom, which is awesome. You can fit a helmet on your head, but the visibility out the front window is very narrow. And then you also come back here to your C-pillar, and inside the vehicle, you can hardly see anything. And if I go to the passenger, you're good. If I go to the passenger side, I mean, that is just a tough blind spot to have. I know you have blind spot monitoring on your side windows, but it's just kind of a pain. It's not the best visibility that you can get.
It's not as bad as the Camaro was, but it's not great. I just don't know that that's a real number.
Okay.
Maybe it is. Did you double check?
No.
Did you fact check?
I did not fact check.
So you're just taking the first piece of information,
yes,
and then
I trust it though. It comes from the Drive.
The Drive? They're a bunch of shysters.
Actually?
They're not to be trusted. If it doesn't come from Downshift or the Associated Press, it's not to be trusted.
What about Motor Biscuit?
I'm talking about the good things. I do like the way that this looks, and I think this point will come to fisticuffs between the two of us in this parking lot tonight, but I do like the way it looks. It looks the same as it has since 2020. I think it is starting to maybe need a bit of a refresh, as we've kind of covered throughout this whole thing. But you get the long nose. It does look pretty Supra. Really exaggerated lights. Front splitter looks cool. Don't look here. At least you don't look there. But I do think it looks cool. It looks aggressive. I like the double bubble hood, the Viper. Hood, carbon wing mirrors, just like my car. I think they're like $900-ish, but you've got 19-inch forged kind of satin gunmetal wheels, red Toyota Supra brakes, Michelin not PS for us, Pilot Super Sport tires, where they 255s up front and then 275s in the rear. But I think it's just a cool shape. I think it looks good. You get this really flared hip. You love flared hips,
I love
dude.
flared hips, you're right.
Tell me you don't like this.
That is like my kryptonite right there.
This is the shit right here.
Yeah.
Subtle duckbill spoiler, nice clean LED, really exaggerated diffuser, and then some adaptive exhaust, F1 style reverse light, which you also had comments on. So why don't I let you talk now?
I think like objectively it's a decent styled car. I just think there's a few things that really just set me off the edge to just not like the whole thing. And honestly, it really just comes down to the fake vents. It's just such an eyesore because you see all three of them every time you enter the vehicle.
And one of the best parts about this car, obviously, has to do with the engine. It's B58, 3-liter, straight six, twin scroll, 382 horsepower, 368 pound-feet of torque. Loads of power everywhere. Any gear, any speed for the most part, you're going to have power. It's going to be smooth and it's going to be efficient if you get the auto. It's rated at 25 mpg for the automatic. The manual drops it to 21 miles per gallon. So obviously you have 2 less gears. That has a lot to do with your highway fuel economy. But I got about 23 mpg in my testing, so it's still pretty efficient for making almost 400 horsepower. Let's be honest, 400 horsepower just about. So I really do like the engine here. It definitely fits as a spiritual successor to maybe a 2JZ.
And just to add facts and figures, 0 to 60 in the auto 3.9, in the manual 4.2.
And then there's the drive, which is excellent. You do get adaptive dampers. It is a strut front, multi-link rear rather than a double wishbone up front like you get in the Z, but it still rides incredibly well and handles really, really well. You do get an active M Sport diff out back. It has been reworked for this manual. This is like a Toyota developed manual. They've reworked the back diff, so you can step the car out a little bit more organically without the diff binding, biting, and locking, and then sending you through a spin. It just feels good. You've got power everywhere. The steering wheel is a little bit skinny, but it's sharp. The front end reacts down into this right-hander. No real weight transfer. I've got loads of power and torque coming out of the corner. It's just a great handler. It feels more natural toward the limit with the manual and the reworked diff. This manual is also like 22 pounds lighter than the auto. And what it results in is this is just clearly a more complete car than the Z is. This is more well-rounded than a Mustang GT, but it's not as emotional as you would get from that V8. But it's hard to find any faults with this thing. And then if we start to talk about the interior, I have to say, yes, you're gonna pay for it. Yes, it's BMW, but that means it's probably better than any Toyota interior. I do like the hazelnut. You can't get this on any trim. You can get it on the anniversary trim. You can get it on the 3-liter premium. Maybe you can get it on the 3-liter, but you can't get it on the 2.0. So you can either get black or the hazelnut. I do like the hazelnut here. And then there's just nice carbon fiber in here. All of the fit and finish works really well. Very nice, very substantial feeling. Steering wheel's a little bit skinny, but I think it does work. You still got physical buttons for your climate controls, heated seats. It just kind of works. I like it. We're gonna talk about cargo and practicality, and I did put it on the good side of the video, but there's something very wrong with it. It's the fact, you can't open the trunk from the outside of the car. Obviously there's a button on the key, but you do have to go to the cabin to open the trunk. Obviously, hatch style, we got about 9 cubic feet of space. And the reason that this is on the positive side of the video is because the Nissan Z has a much more practical shape to its opening, but the floor is so high that you only get 5 cubic feet of space. So this is almost double what you're getting in the Z. That's also a lot less than you're gonna get in the Mustang. And it's gonna be a less practical opening, or a less practical opening here. But
good thing it's on the positive side.
It ends up being pretty practical, at least compared to the other car in the segment that is also 2 doors and 2 seats. Can't have these windows down, we're gonna buff it. We're gonna Jimmy Buffett in here.
That sounds so good. I can't believe I didn't have it in sport. Don't tell anyone about that.
Now I don't. Dude, it's fast.
Yeah, it's fast and it's fun.
It sounds good. It makes pops on the overrun in sport mode.
Yes. You have to, that's key.
That's key.
There's a really big button here.
There's a huge button on the center console that says sport. Don't miss it.
All right, what do you want to talk about?
I This has been an interesting week because every year for the last 4 years, I've looked forward to having the Supra loan, just like I've looked forward to the LC 500. Not as much as the LC, but anyway. This year, I don't know, like last year we got the manual. The second year we got more power and suspension rework. There just wasn't much that changed this year.
Yeah.
And I think the new Mustang just kind of holds a little bit more emotion, and that's really what speaks to me. So I guess I was just kind of conflicted with this car this week. It's still a great car. I just wasn't as excited as maybe I had expected to be.
Well, yeah, and I feel like I have similar thoughts. Like when this initially launched, and this was actually my first press car, so you would think it would have some sentimental value to me, right?
Nostalgia.
It would, yeah, exactly, nostalgic. So I was also very, like you, excited when I heard this week we were going to get it. But I would say over the course of the week, that did change as well. And there's only so much that can do for me. And I think what it boils down to, for me at least, is there's aspects of the styling that I personally don't like, which, okay, fine, that's subjective. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But it's not just the drive. Like, the drive is great, but also that's also BMW. Like, it's nothing to do with Toyota or Supra. Like, I just don't relate those two things. It's more of a BMW to me.
So you're getting hung up on the BMW thing again?
Yes, and the fact that this thing is just so unpractical for me as a daily driver. And I think it's hard to justify this as like a daily driver with the lack of like practicality that you have with some of the storage bins, that sort of thing. I really don't like how much your blind spot is with the C-pillar. Literally feels like you're being encapsulated by the interior with this overhang on the roof. Like, I get you have awesome headroom here, but I don't know. I almost feel like I fell in love with it. There's a lot to unpack it.
I get what you're talking about. Like, it is not a practical car, but I think the counter argument would be, who told you it was practical?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a 2-seat sports car, and yeah, like the things that it competes against, price point, power, performance, those sort of things. Like, it's more practical than the Z. It's less practical than the Mustang. And then, yeah, styling, subjective. You're going to be bothered by fake vents. A lot of people are. I don't know. It's just, well, all of your points are valid.
Let's talk about that then. Like, what would you buy, and what would be your reasonings between this, a GT, and a Z? Because those are kind of who it competes against.
So, I would probably buy the Mustang because me, as a person, knowing myself, I'm about emotion more than really anything else.
Yeah.
And that V8, and that has so much character. This is fast and it's clinical, but it lacks the character of the Mustang. This is probably a more proficient sports car than the Mustang, but
it's more buttoned up,
it doesn't
polished.
do as much for me in my heart. And then the Z doesn't really compete, to be honest. It's not on this level of performance, and also it's got way less practicality, whatever. But I think the correct answer of what you get in this segment is the M240, because it's less money than this. You get 2 back seats that are moderately usable in a pinch, and you get a trunk, which is bigger.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the thing that kind of overhung on me this week, was that kind of bomb dropped where I realized that, oh, you can get the M240 for less money than this. And you can get it with all-wheel drive, and you can get it with all the new tech and the BMW full experience.
Well, and it's not just us feeling like this. Like, the masses would agree based on their sales number. Like, this has either lacked its luster or failed to continue to innovate. Like, awesome, they brought the manual in 23, but in 22 they sold 5,000, and then in 23 they sold 2,500. And I'm pretty sure this year they're on track to sell even less. So, I mean...
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
That is a crazy low number. Would you have ever guessed it was that low?
No, I would. That's why I questioned you. I was like, is that right? Is
3 different sources.
That's
validated.
That is surprising. And I think that's kind of the thing that like really sticks out to me is like, I still like this car, but I'm not as excited about it as I was when it first came out.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the only thing that's kind of like dug in my side this week. I don't know. I like this car. I do like this car. I'm just not as excited about it as I want to be. And I think, unfortunately, that's really where I have to end it. So thanks to Toyota for letting us have a go in the Supra again. Thanks to you for watching. And leave it down in the comments, what would you have? M240, Mustang GT, Z, or Supra? And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.